My name is Miriam Nabunya, and I am the founder of Edges and Rings. And it's a long story. It's so much more than the Edges and Rings you know today. And it's like I said in my New Year's Eve special, it's a journey to self-discovery. And with that, it all started. Let me give you a little bit of my background. So I'm born in Uganda, raised in Sweden, and have been living in Oslo for 15 years, Oslo, Norway. And I came to Uganda in '93 with my 5 siblings. And long story short, we ended up in a refugee institution, and then when it was closing down, we got moved to a foster house or a foster home. So we grew up in a foster family, Swedish white foster family. And like any family, you have your quarrels, you have your disagreements, but it was all in all, it was quite all right. But the only thing that I wasn't aware of it at my young age was the lack of representation in our community that we grew up in. So to paint the picture of this community, we were those about maybe 6 or 8 Black people in that small village that we lived in, whereof 3 of them were my siblings. So if anything happened and there was a Black person that did it, then it was very easy for us to figure out where it was. You ask around the house, and then of course we had contact with the rest, so we all knew each other. So growing up in this environment where there was a lack of representation, meaning we didn't see many of people growing up that looked like us. And we were the first generation in our family that grew up without any family around, meaning we didn't grow up with any aunties or uncles or anything like that, but we grew up in the custody of a Swedish family. So with that, it comes with challenges, because with living in a environment where there's lack of representation, as a child, you try to figure out where you fit in, where you belong, with the knowledge of the individual that you are as a child. So we grew up in the MTV era. As we always watched MTV, and that's where we got a lot of our inspiration, and that also the appearance. So when I tell you I've had all sorts of hairdos, I mean I've had bleached hair, I mean blonde, I've had weaves, braids, all sorts of hairdos. And with, as we know today, treating your hair and taking it through all sorts of treatment with no chill, meaning no rest, then there are consequences. So with me personally, I believe I started experiencing a little bit of hair loss in my teens, but the thing is I didn't put too much thought into it, because I just thought that I was like shedding hair, like when you shower and so on. I didn't think much about it. And another thing I didn't think much about was what this kind of environment did to my self-image. Because when you lack representation, when you don't see anybody that looks like you in your environment, then that does something to you. You try to figure this out. You try to fit in and adjust to what you're seeing. What we saw were white people, blonde people, and they were accepted, or light-skinned people were accepted. So I've practiced skin bleaching throughout my years, and this was the teens, and yet again more hair treatments. And it wasn't until I was 25 that I really understood how much I was affected by all of the treatments I have been doing throughout the years, how it had affected my self-image, how it had affected how I treated myself, and also, most importantly, how I showed up in the world. There was always an excuse. If I hadn't done my hair, if I didn't have braids, if I didn't have a wig or a weave, I didn't want to leave the house. I didn't feel that I was representative. I didn't approve of my natural appearance. And when it kind of clicked for me when I was 25 that it was a toxic mindset. I was operating in a toxic mindset. And mind you, being 25, you are grown. You are a full grown person. Of course, at the age of 38 now, I could go back and like, oh my God, I didn't know anything at 25. But I was 25 and I just knew that my way of seeing myself was toxic. So I decided to start shaving my head so that I would detach myself from the beauty norms that I grew up with. The thought of having synthetic hair, that was what was beautiful, and that was what was accepted for me to show up in my world. So that way I just decided to continue working on myself, and I decided to let my hair grow out as soon as I had a healthy relationship with myself, and thereof the self-discovery journey. This took time. Like, one would think that was a short journey and that somewhere I would understand that my natural hair and my natural way of looking was good enough for me, but it wasn't, because as I started this self-discovery journey, also it triggered feelings and even feelings and incidents that had happened in my life earlier at a young age. All of these emotions came up that I hadn't dealt with, but at that time I didn't even know anything about mental health. I didn't know about what lack of representation can do to a child, and I didn't know the trauma that was baked in my self image and also how I saw myself. Because when they say that when it comes to self-esteem, how can somebody affect what you feel about yourself? It is very much possible. It can be anything from somebody always pointing out the difference, pointing out the differentiation between you and the environment that you live in. Maybe somebody pointing out that the position you are in or whatnot, that you shouldn't be there. All of these things, they trigger imposter syndrome, they trigger scarcity mindset, they triggered lack of even people I had in my life growing up starting to make logic of this toxic mindset. That's what I was doing. So on this journey, I figured out that, okay, I have more to work on myself. Okay, who am I without all of the hair? And as I'm talking to you, sis, you know how important hair is for us and our identity curve, So this went on as I was working with myself, and some of you know that I've been working as a coach as well. So the interest for that, this was before I was a coach, but the interest for that also got triggered or birthed during this period. And I also carried a level of shame because I had done this to myself. I had treated my hair, I had fallen for the beauty norms around me and in society in general. Like I said, I grew up in Sweden. So with this, I just knew that I had more work to do. So on this journey, I started to, I just worked in silence. I worked in silence. I worked on myself in silence, but it was so uncomfortable in the beginning. And so it was so uncomfortable because I literally felt like a teenage boy with breasts when my head was shaved. I didn't feel feminine. I didn't feel like I could show up as myself. And it was just a challenging time. And I was living by myself in Oslo with no family around. And also I had some black friends that I thought that I know today can resonate with this journey. But at that point, I didn't know how to share it. So I worked on myself in silence. And as time went on, after about 2 years, I started feeling more comfortable in myself and I started letting my hair grow out. And that's when I really understood how bad my edges were, my hairline. It had descended. I mean, it had moved backwards. And I understood that I couldn't just let it out to grow out. I needed some professional help, so I got a friend that specializes in textured hair, and she helped me. She was with me on this hair journey, and slowly but surely my hair indeed could grow out naturally, and that's how my natural journey began. And I started also opening up about my self-discovery journey, and also all of the shame I had felt about my self-image, my upbringing, and also most important, what I had driven myself to, meaning experimenting so much with my appearance that I came to a point where I couldn't even recognize myself. I couldn't show up as my natural self. So I started sharing this, and more Black and brown women resonated with my journey. And I shared this on a little bit of it on a page, a Norwegian page called Norwegian Naturals, where it's a platform where it initially started out for people with textured hair or people with children with textured hair to swap tips and ideas and advice on how to get certain products, how to take care of the hair in a healthy way. And it was a change that I wasn't as aware of then, but as I'm very much aware of now, is that a lot of people were much more concerned about how they could grow their hair healthy, how they could grow their hair naturally. Whereas when I grew up, it was all about relaxers. Even texturizer wasn't good enough.
Beautiful hair. Every woman's crowning touch. For years we've trusted dark and lovely relaxers to give us just the look we want. Soft, easy to manage hair. Glorious sheen. Great body in all styles. With the quality and care that's a dark and lovely tradition, you can get the look of your life.
This is what we saw on MTV, and that's what we were going for when I grew up. But coming back to later at the age of 27, and I was sharing this, I saw that there was an urgency, an interest for how do you take care of your hair naturally. So it was a good timing, I say, and also it was good timing within me to be able to share it. So around 2013, without even having a deeper thought about it, I wrote on Norwegian Naturals that our hair is so important to our culture and heritage, and also our identity journey. So I wanted to change the narrative in this country and in the Nordic countries. And I posted that in 2013, without thinking much more about edges and drinks. I didn't know that, but I just saw it just felt in my spirit that I need to do something without any plan. That was 2013. Fast forward, I'm treating my hair well with this professional, a friend of mine, and COVID hit. And I don't know about you, but when COVID hit, many of us started analyzing our life, analyzing the quality of our life, analyzing who we had in our life, and so did I. And during COVID, I just felt like I wanted to do this thing that I had joked about earlier with my friend that was helping me with my hair, that when my edges grow back, we're going to have a party and celebrate this, and we're just going to invite Black and brown women because they can resonate with this journey. They understand the importance of having such a celebration. Gathering Black and brown women, and just be in a safe space where we can share stories, and where our stories are neither judged if they're true or not. That was the vision. And I had been holding on to this, and people had made fun of me that I had shared to even my peers. I mean, like other Black and brown women that I had shared the idea with. They maybe understood the concept, but they made fun of the name, Edges and Drinks. And then it was basically celebrating the edges and having drinks, meaning a celebration as a metaphor for like a watering hole. A watering hole where we could meet without having any hidden agenda about it being a fundraiser, beneficial event, or anything like that, but just showing up as you are and enjoy the company of other women that look like yourself. That was the plan, and this was the vision. And I started sharing this. Yet again, I started sharing it, and at this point, we've come to 2021. So I contacted Lala Kolibali, who is the founder of a Norwegian platform called Krølltopp.no, which is the very first blog in Norway that wrote or that writes about textured hair, the wellness of your hair, how to take care of your hair, and also somewhat of self-care in all of that. So I contacted her, told her about my vision, and she kicked on it, and she knew that her readers were also a prime target group, as a lot of people with textured hair, and especially in the Nordics, look like you and me, black and brown people. So she knew that that was a good, it would be good for our community as well. And then on top of that, we pulled in Olimata Yang, that founded Norwegian Naturals, the platform, the Facebook page, where I had written about that I wanted to change the narrative. And that was 7 years later. It was 7 years later, I started contacting people, because when you have a vision, sometimes it can be scary, because when you haven't seen it and you don't even know the how, when's, with who, it can scare you really. So I actually had 7 years of it just lurking around in my system. So now we're in 2021. I had shared this with Lala, I had shared this with Olimata, and they both kicked on it and said, you know what, let's go, Nabunya, let's go. And that's what we did. We planned the very first Edges and Drinks get together in 2022. And it was hard to find a venue where they would meet our standards, because we did have standards and requirements of what kind of venue we wanted it to be. We wanted it to be a place where we could have African food. We wanted it to be a place where we could showcase talents within the textured hair environment, professional talents, and also that way showcase how you and me and our babies could find this kind of professional knowledge could help us. So with these requirements, we went to different venues, but we found one venue that is called Brød Circus in the center of Oslo. We were planning a hair and culture show. We were planning African food, live music, and time to mingle and meet new people. And it was wonderful. It was really wonderful. It was a tough kind of transitioning process, because we had never worked together. We just knew that we understood the vision, we understood the environment we wanted to create together. So we just stayed fast and kept on working very diligently. But as a lot of that planning period, we were on lockdown, the pandemic was still going on, so we had a lot of Zoom meetings, Google Meets, and with God's grace, it happened 2022 on the 16th of October, the day before my birthday, on a Sunday. We hosted the first ever Edges and Drinks in Oslo, Norway, and it was such a wonderful space. Everything didn't go as planned, but in spite of that, we got wonderful feedback. We had so many testimonials, and there was a lady that contacted us via email. Imagine like logging in and writing an email. Nowadays it feels like it's so hard to even get somebody to DM you or answer a comment or something like that. So wrote us and said, thank you so much for showcasing how Black women should be treated, how Black women should be served. Another woman that contacted us said that she had been in Norway for 9 years, married to a white Norwegian, and she had a work, family, everything, but this was the first time in those 9 years she touched down in Oslo, where she felt welcome, where she felt like she wasn't the odd one out, where she wasn't the only Black woman in the room. So that was really wonderful. And also we got other feedback about people wanting to attend, but because they didn't have any babysitters, they didn't have a network or such. So that way it made it hard for them to participate. And of course, like we said, we are dedicated to serve Black and brown women or Afro-descendant women. So that way we had to think about, okay, how can we meet these needs and still keep the essence of what we saw Edges and Drinks with.
There's a very, 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 very talented makeup artist just connected with, one of our showcasers and some of the artists who are here today. And they had never crossed paths in Oslo. So we're doing this event to make those kinds of connections happen and to make sure that we all know each other and we can lift each other up and, inspire each other. Yeah.